Welcome, everyone, once again to the SleepTech Talk, the Sleep Podcast. Reaching out to all of you sleep techs and anybody who's associated in the sleep industry. And with your co-hosts, Emerson Kerr, Robert Miller, and myself, the man with the face made for radio, Jerry George Moneycarot. So,
awesome.
Everybody, that's an inside joke. But let me toss it off to Robert, who's going to tell us a little bit about what's going on today.
Hey, we have a special guest for everyone today. He is legendary in the field of sleep and respiratory. And I think that just about everyone in the industry probably knows this guy and loves this guy. But he's was a former colleague of both Jerry and mine when we were all at Phillips together. And but we've got Emerson Kerr with us today, our co-host, and we want to learn a little bit about his journey into sleep and sort of how he got into the field, and then also sort of what led to his now sales position with Phillips. Emerson, take it away.
Oh, wow. So thanks. It's really an honor to be a part of this team and to be able to explore this. You know, it's what's interesting thinking about our stories and how we all got into sleep. It seems like all three of us sort of backed into it. It wasn't our plan. And when I really, think about the journey, I was a respiratory therapist. I was working in a bronch lab, and my director came in and said, "Do you still want to be in management?" Of course, I had a smart aleck response that basically asked him who died, because at Mobile Infirmary, nobody left their position. The next thing I know, I'm the team leader of the sleep center. I didn't even know we had one, actually. When he asked me that, I said, "Where is it?" I didn't know we had a sleep lab. But I ended up falling in love with it. Phenomenal mentor, Dr. Robert Dawkins, just was a great teacher. But, I soon realized when I got in there, I was the least qualified to be there. And went to the Atlanta School of Sleep Medicine with Dr. Rosenberg. Terry Malloy was captain of the ship back then. And it was such a fun time, learning sleep, falling in love with it. It was the late 90s, so we were right there at that transition from paper to digital. A lot of learning there. It was fun. It was fun working for a PhD too, because he was so into all the nuances of what sleep was about. And it really helped me fall in love with sleep medicine.
Hey, I always say that's back when the insurance companies actually paid for sleep studies.
Exactly. We did 2 nights, and that seems like such a foreign concept now, versus not even a split night or not even getting them into the sleep lab. So without a doubt, that was definitely the golden age for sleep technology.
Like they say, those were the good old days.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
Something that you said right there really hit. First off, working with a PhD and then working with Dr. Rosenberg. How was it to, meet these kind of stalwarts in sleep?
That's the fun part of my entire journey of being with sleep. I have a picture of you and I with Dr. Dement when we were working together at Phillips. And I think that's been the best part of the journey that I've been on, is being able to meet these giants that are so passionate about their craft. And, someone like Dr. Rosenberg, when he had the school, and he still does to this day, but it was really at its highest point, its apex during the 90s. It was fun. It was fun to talk about all the different disorders and to really get into those nuances, those details, to really almost nerd out on, some of the really bizarre things that we get to see in sleep that are unusual and make what we do fun. And those were excellent times, but they paved the way for what would has been a great career with Respironics and with Phillips.
How long have you been with Respironics and now Phillips, Emerson?
Yeah, about 22 years. It's funny, the way I got to the company, I actually got an email from a headhunter, and which seems crazy now that you would get that, but I literally had to create a resume in like 5 minutes. It was about a half a page long back then, and sent it in. She emailed right back. We talked. I interviewed with Respironics the next day. In a month, I was out of my sleep lab and was one of the clinical trainers for North America within a month. It was a whirlwind experience and one of the best learning experiences of my life.
Wow. And you've been in different roles at Philips over the years, right?
I have. So I started out, I was with a team that was really great in education. It was the late Rod Rogerson, such a great guy, great teacher. We sure miss him. Joyce Black, Pamela Fry, Cheryl Needham, was such a great group of people to learn from. And it wasn't long after that, the interest shifted in Respironics, and they had a group of business development leaders that they raised up, and I got to be a part of that group as a sleep consultant. And I had the Southeast in Puerto Rico for a season. But then that's about the time you came on, Robert, and we had the sleep consultants where we were paired with account managers, and my world shrunk down to Alabama and then South Alabama, the Panhandle, and it began to really change. But somewhere around 2009, I made the move to marketing and was able to be a teammate of Jerry's. We were part of an interesting concept where we were field marketers, but we were in the field. We were actually hybrids in a sense, out growing sleep. And it was really something that we were passionate about, because Jerry and I were able to work with our team and really push sleep growth, bring solutions to the market, another level of education for me. So yeah, I've been a trainer, a clinical salesperson, an account manager, and a marketer, and now in a different role even today.
That's interesting that you said that, because you and I had a similar journey when it came to the marketing side, and all three of us had that journey from clinical to business. Can you talk a little bit about that the mental side?
Oh, sure. Wow. It's funny you say that, because as I began to think about, preparing for our conversation today, one of the things that I knew early on, I wanted to be in leadership, and I began to do things to prepare myself for it. Among them was doing Toastmasters, learning how to present, learning how to speak in front of people. And that was sort of the first step forward that I took upon myself to learn something, to build the craft. But moving from being a clinical person into manufacturing was a stretch. And it doesn't seem like it would be, because as a clinician, you tend to think, I'm used to selling, I sell sleep every day, but it's different. It's because the world that you live in as a clinician is one of dogma, where you are your own authority, and your knowledge is your value, it's your currency. And when you move over into manufacturing, the thing that becomes really different is now you're part of a system, and you have to learn how to talk. You have to learn really what not to say more than anything. And I learned that the hard way, that there were things that I tripped over myself. And one of them is really telling someone they're wrong as a customer. That doesn't seem to go over well. When you look at someone who has scored something inaccurately and you tell them, yeah, that's not how you do that. They don't really appreciate that when you're a manufacturer. And I have a few black eyes and busted lips, obviously metaphorically, but there was a season of learning there where I learned that maybe my opinion really needed to be kept to myself, relative to that. But at the same time, you have to learn how to blend it, because part of your value to your customers is your knowledge, is your experience. It's just learning how to filter that so that it's partly who you work for, but it's also you. And that's the journey and the transition that can be challenging for some people that make that move from being a clinician into manufacturing and in sales.
I hear you 100% there. I was just going to ask Robert, did you have those kind of moments?
I absolutely did. I mean, matter of fact, the very first moment I had put me on a performance improvement plan. I got on a PIP because I made somebody really angry. And that didn't go over well.
That's funny. In the last episode, you had asked us, did you ever have to take a step back? What about you?
Oh, absolutely. My career has really been a series of steps back to leap forward. And that's been fun, but at the same time, it's, when I was a respiratory therapist, the first one was being what they called a relief team leader. I wasn't paid to do it, but I had all the responsibilities of a house supervisor as a respiratory therapist. And it meant sacrificing in order to take that step forward. If I had not done that, I would not have been able to make that step into the sleep lab. The other one was making the sleep lab leap, to Respironics, because at that time it was a lateral move financially, which meant traveling, being away from my family, on the go, doing 100 to 150 flights a year where I missed things. And, my family and I, we made a decision that this was what we wanted for our growth and our career. So at that time, the sacrifice was to make these changes, accept these sacrifices that allowed for that leap into sales, which led to marketing, and then to some of the more passionate things I could be involved in.
So, I've actually had a unique experience with Emerson because I've worked alongside of him as a colleague selling in different circumstances when we were together at Phillips. But I've been on the other side of the table where Emerson is selling to me as a customer. So that's been, an interesting perspective. And I have to say, and I think that this is actually something that could be, important to a lot of people who do sales, is that, if you if really the goal is to collaborate and work on business development, sort of the products and the things that you're wanting to sell become sort of secondary to the relationship building, the collaboration, and ultimately the growth in business on, from the client's perspective. And I feel like, Emerson, that's one of the ways that I've seen you be successful in the past.
Well, you're right. It's, there's an old statement, and one of my mentors, and I love this guy. His name's Joe Petrola. We've been friends for, almost 20 years now. But something that Joe taught me early on as a mentor was people buy from people they like, know, and trust. And the way and that doesn't mean that you walk in trying to be deceitful. It means that you sit down and you ask questions and you collaborate and you build the trust. And that takes time. And it takes solving each other's problems, that it's a win-win relationship. And when you do that, and when you approach a situation like that, you're a partner. Now, I know legal and regulatory doesn't like us to use words like that, but that's essentially what it is. Your strategic relationship matters. And, it's easy to walk in, and I've made this mistake. I've certainly done things wrong in this regard, where I came in and sold, not really thinking about the future. And it cost me. It cost me friendships. It cost me relationships. But that's where we learn. We grow from it. And the growth for me has been just that when we're working together on a project, then the sell is natural. It's not a forced thing, because everybody wins in the long run. And that's really how I like to approach it, because I want to have a long-term relationship, not short. And this, what we're doing right now is an example of that all the years of working together as teammates and as customer and salesperson, we're still friends today. And I think that speaks volumes.
I love it. This is what Robert was saying last time when during his episode about being able to come together and collaborate. And it's not just about trying to hawk an item. It was about how do we get together and provide a solution that ultimately serves the customer and especially the patient the best.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, absolutely.
Hey, we do need to shift gears a little bit. Emerson, you've gotten involved with, some of the educational groups that, from a national perspective. Tell us a little bit about your work with the AST.
Absolutely. That is extremely rewarding. I was able to run and be a part of it as a director at large, and this past year was elected treasurer. When I think about what the AST is doing, it's our advocate for sleep technology. I mean, we have great partners like the BRPT and the ASM and other organizations that are out growing and driving sleep. But when it comes to the AST, that's the real partner for sleep technology. And Where we've been for the last several years is been building education, building this infrastructure of education. And there's a reason why. Several years ago, we had a forum that we brought in several stakeholders from across the market to talk about what was necessary for sleep technology. And among the things that came from that was this need for education, build critical thinking, build all kinds of tools to help technologists be the very best at their craft they could possibly be. Now things are changing. We're at a shift. We're going to be having a summit early April where we're bringing stakeholders together again because we did a market survey. Many of you may have, of our listeners may have even participated in that survey. And what we're trying to determine is what's next. The summit years ago paved the way for where we are now. It's time to pivot. And that pivot is for many reasons. It's because of COVID. It's because of some of the things happening in the market with manufacturers. It's even just the changes in technology. The technology has leapt forward. And with value-based medicine, the need for navigators and programs of that nature has really taken on its own energy and its own force. So what we're going to be asking ourselves in this summit is, what does the next technologist need to look like? What does the AST need to be doing to build the right kind of tools, the right kind of structure, and so that what we can do is take care of our membership. We can provide the right kind of support so that our members can grow in who they are, grow in their field, and we can become even better so that the next time we do a survey, we're evolving again. But we're definitely in a phase where we're looking at that and we're ready to pivot for the future.
Sorry for the noise. It's always good to record a podcast when you have a little one in the background.
Absolutely.
Hey,
Spice of life.
To all our listeners, this is real. So
that's right, real life.
But hey, Emerson, thank you so much for
Great.
telling us a little bit about that. That's awesome for especially our sleep tech listeners. It makes a big deal to hear that the direction that the AST is going. Robert, you have anything else to add to that?
No, I certainly am involved in state societies here in the Carolinas with the Carolina Sleep Society, and I know that what I would love to see is I guess I keep using this word, but it feels like the right word: more collaboration between the national groups and then the local groups together, sort of all working together, so that because I think it's going to take the power of really more people getting involved in advocacy around the things that are important to sleep techs and to our industry as a whole, just to make sure that we sort of protect our profession and at the same time that we make each one of us better at what we do and how we take care of patients, because ultimately the acuity level of patients in the sleep lab will continue to to go up, and with more home sleep testing being done just as a sort of frontline diagnostic for patients in sleep apnea, we're going to see these sicker patients who have significant comorbid conditions, and we need to be prepared to handle and take care of those patients. So again, just from a national perspective, and I hope it's part of the AST's plan when you have your meeting, that you're able to come out of that with this, okay, now we've got to put everybody together and sort of all be in sync so that we're pulling in the same direction.
Without a doubt, because you're right. People take care of people. The technology is changing and there's going to always be innovation, and innovation's never bloodless. There's always a cost, but we're always going to need sleep technologists. And that's the one thing that I'm excited about. That's never going to change. We're always going to have people taking care of people. And as we do that, being able to pivot as an organization to take care of that, to your point, is going to be essential for all of our future.
Absolutely. Emerson, thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. This was fun.
So I think we're getting on for time. So thank you so much, Emerson. I was just going to say that, hey, I think this could be a separate topic or a separate episode on its own, talking about the future of sleep technology and the AST. But I think we'll save that for another one. But for now, Emerson, thank you. And want to thank our co-host, Robert. And thank you all for listening to the SleepTech podcast. And we'll see you all in the next one.
See you next time.
Thanks so much.